familiar with this for this single tonguing. We'll get to double tonguing in a second. So let's do 4. So I'm going to do 4 on each of these notes on my pentatonic scale. So it'll sound like this. And then you can go down as well. If you get a sound, and you actually heard one when I did that, that's kind of a squeaky sound, maybe that just means that you're using too much air, and that's very common when you're begin the articulation. And the reason for this is because when you're actually tonguing, your tongue comes up, and it can actually let off more air than you were doing when maybe you were making that nice long note. So we want to kind of measure out how much air we're releasing at one time. So every note should come out nice and clear, like a nice little bell. And then the next step is what I just did, is just to do one note on each fingering. Once you get that, and again, if you're just new to this, I might pause the video and just practice the single tonguing as you go up and down the scale. It's time to mix it up. So you're going to do some of the notes that were smooth, the slur, and then some tongued notes. And you can see I've already made a little bit of a song by just doing a couple of those little elements, going up the scale, going down the scale, doing it slurred, doing it tongued, and then I couldn't put in the different rhythms, doing it long and short. So after you've practiced each element, the long notes where it's slurred, the scale, the long, short, and the single tonguing, try and kind of implement those and make a very, very little short song that's your own, but that's you're practicing those particular details in. Okay, once you've got that, it's time to do a faster articulation, and to do this we need what's called a double tonguing. So we need another syllable. We use ta for the single tongue, ta 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 ta. But I can only go so fast going ta 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 before my tongue trips on itself, so I need a different syllable. I'm going to use a ka. You can also use a da and ga. It's just a forward syllable and a back syllable when I'm doing my tonguing. So I can go ta ka, or da ga, da ga, da ga. My favorite thing to do when teaching this to students is to actually use a word that might help in facilitating this. So for the da ga, you can use digga, 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 ditch, digga, ditch, digga, ditch, digga, digga, ditch. And then you try and implement that on the flute. But before you actually put up the flute, you can actually take your palm of your hand and do those syllables with a little burst of air, because that's what's going to happen when you do those syllables. So you're just going taka, 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 ta. With each syllable, there's a little burst of air. And that's going to be what creates the sound on this. And so then the question comes, why? Why do I need to do this? Why can't I just use ta, 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 ta? Because you're going to want to go real fast. So it's something like this. I couldn't do that if I was single tonguing it. And it's a really cool skill to be able to do on the Native American flute as I go up and down my scale. That sounds really cool. So practice that, and first just practice it, remember, with saying the taka, 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 ta, or daga, 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 da. Oh, and for the taka, if you want to use a word, the expression would be take a trip. Take a trip. And they're both fine. You can practice both and choose which one you like the best. There's not one that's better or worse. They will both work just the same. I will say that I prefer to use the digga, 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 ditch one for the Native American flute, only because it's just a teeny bit more gentle for the wood instruments. But you can experiment with that and figure out which one you prefer. Next thing is some more ornamentations that maybe are kind of bendy, so you can get a sigh sound, this beautiful sound that's kind of a swell and used so much in Native American flute, like this. And I just pulled my hand off to demonstrate that, but basically I'm taking and rolling my finger off the key gently, and that creates an upward bend. I can also do it down and go. The slower I go, the more bends I'm going to create. Really a very, very cool technique. That one thing that I'd like you to practice is if you start on your bottom note of your scale, so all the holes covered, and you pick up one finger at a time, and when you get to this index finger, it's kind of the easiest one to do this on, roll it off gently. So it goes like this. And you can do that on any finger, but you'll find that the ring fingers are a little harder to do it on. Here I got a little pop because as soon as my finger wants to come off on this one, it kind of wants to come off on this one. So just because of that, I tend to do it more with all the other fingers except that. Cool technique, and I did a slow bend, and then I kind of bounced on the key, and that's a very, very cool effect. So you can begin putting that in. The other that's kind of a sigh thing I like to use is usually at the end of a phrase. This is where I create a lot of air pressure into the flute, and then I let it die down, so it'll sound like this. And you can hear it kind of tapers off at the ends. And you want to conclude some of your ideas or phrases like that, so it kind of goes to a gentle ending point. And then that gives that shape that's so effective with the Native American flute. And you can hear the beautiful wood qualities. One of the things I want to begin on this one, and as I go through and put on more videos, there'll probably be a lot more videos on this next subject, which is vibrato. Vibrato is the waving tone that goes through any instrument that can create it, and this can be in a violin. You actually see the violinist shaking their hand like this, and that's creating a vibrato by creating a wave in their sound system. Basically, it's making the pitch go up and down, but you don't have to get so involved in the technical things, what's happening there. But in the flutes and in the wind instruments, it's done by increasing and decreasing air pressure. Basically, I'm going to say whoo, woo, 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 woo. And I first would do this with the palm of my hand. So I could feel the airstream, making sure that it's in a constant, steady flow, being slightly interrupted as I do this. And seeing if I can create a nice, gentle sound. Now, where this comes from is highly, highly debated in the flute community. Some people will teach to do your vibrato completely from your diaphragm, which is to make it go. That's fine, that'll work. Some people teach it a little higher up, as a vocalist. It's kind of the vocal folds as you're doing it. Ha. And I find that some people have a natural vibrato and don't have to think too hard about it. And if that's for you, great. And you can just go with it. And some people need a little bit more work within the technical production of it, how to actually create the vibrato. So that's where the blowing into the palm really, really comes in handy, because you can feel what's going on. One visualization of this is if you think of the air being water, only because water is a tangible quality that we can see. And so if I turn on my spigot and it's going to go in one steady pressure, that would be the ideal for a straight tone like we did at the very beginning. There's not a whole lot of fluctuations, it's just one tone and it keeps going. And that's going to be the basis for the starting part of the note. And then once I create that straight note, I'm going to begin my wave or my vibrato. So I'm going to begin the whoo, woo, 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 woo. And it's okay to start off slow. Actually, you should probably, if you're starting for the first time, do it slow. The thing you want to watch on is that you're not stopping it. So in our faucet analogy with the water, I don't want to create my vibrato by turning on and off the spigot. I don't want to be going on and off. So that might cause it to be kind of staggered. And when I go fast, it can kind of sound like a nanny goat, because I'm just starting and stopping the air. I want my air to be constant and it to be producing a natural wave within the sound, a gentle vibration. And then it can go faster as I get along. So start with just the air and then start on one note and just take one note if you're just beginning this and see if you can get it to be nice and steady. You might want to start off with a straight tone first. Make sure you're happy with that and then begin the vibrato. And my sound is constant, so that's good. If it hit this, kind of unsteady, I might want to check my air supply. Make sure that I'm blowing in a straight, constant speed and not fluctuating or turning it off, on and off, like I talked about my faucet. This is a skill that's crucial for the Native American flute, and one that will take maybe a little bit of practice, but so worth it, because it's going to be an expressive tool so that you can make the music sing. And that's something that you really need once you get the finger and the muscle memory, which is very, very important. And again, this is my crash course, so I'm giving you everything right now, and we're going to explore these in detail later. But the vibrato is a really very crucial skill to learn. The other thing that I would say is that when you're doing your vibrato, maybe make it like a 1-minute exercise. So to recap what we've talked about, if I were to just start this, first of all, put your flute in a very visible place so that you're always going to pick it up. If you pick it up just for 5-10 minutes each day, you're going to progress greatly. Much more than if you were just to wait until your weekend off and picking it up on Saturday and maybe playing it for a longer period of time. Especially if you're first starting, you need the muscle memory, and we need to kind of get how this is coming out. And this should be a joy. This is a fun instrument to play. So you don't want to make it a big project, but at the same time, you want to allow yourself enough structure that you can progress and really enjoy the instrument. So I like to think of the starting point as maybe having 1 minute madness. So for example, I would start with maybe just my scale, and I might start going up and down the scale. And if you've got that, maybe make it like 5 times. You just go up and down the scale, and maybe in front of a mirror. That should take about 1 minute. So that's a good warm-up. That's a good warm-up for your fingers. The next thing I would do is an articulation warm-up, and I would go through all of the different elements I've learned. The slurs, the single tongue notes, then I try some double tongued notes. And I went up my whole scale. But if you're just starting this, the double tongue things, you might just want to start on the 3 notes. Just getting that, facilitating that. And don't forget that, the digga, 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 ditch, great to practice in a car. The next minute, I might do, let's see, some of the ornaments, like the bending. And go all the way through the scale, maybe just for 1 minute. And then I might put my vibrato in, and this is the last thing that we talked about, which is the wave and the sound. And I might do these on a long note. I'm going to start on my 3 again. I'm going to do the vibrato. Then I go down. All the way through the scale. That way I'm just practicing just a note in and of itself. And then after I've done all 5 of those things, giving them about 1 minute each, I might just try and create a song from my heart, so using all those different tools. Start with the scale, start with some of the single tongue, some of the double tongued, and then see if you can feel comfortable with it. And don't get frustrated right away, especially this bottom finger. If you're just starting, give yourself a little bit of time to really feel about covering these holes gently. But you can still create your music from the very beginning. So here would be, to end this video, just a short little improv using those different things that we talked about.